Hey guys, so super sad that we cannot meet in person for youth group this week, but I'm still thankful to be able to come to you guys and share over video, and thank you for watching. So if you get value out of this, then make sure that you share, come back to it, take what is good, what is beneficial, and feel free to leave the rest. So today I wanted to talk about chaos and just like the cure for chaos, the response to chaos, because I know for me and myself in my own life, I've really been struggling with this, and I feel like I do a pretty good job of combating it, but it's hitting us all hard right now. So whether you're a youth or an adult, I'm sure you need this video right now. So I like words and I like to fully understand them. So what is chaos? Actual definition: complete disorder and confusion. Pretty sure most of us that's echoing in the back of our minds, right? Yeah, absolutely. I looked up synonyms: disarray, pandemonium, turmoil. So I'm imagining a lot of you are probably still with me in that regard. Our world is a mess right now. It's just a mess. It's just the way it is. There's not a lot we can do about it, but what we will focus on is how we can control our responses and how we can change the world around us. So if you look at, the word chaos in response to what's going on in the world, so elections, politics, lies, sickness, riots, violence, just all kinds of mess, right? Chaos everywhere. So that's just on the big grand scale. And then the digital world, it just expands much more rapidly. The spread of lies, of rumors, of misinformation, which adds to that chaos, that confusion, that turmoil, that pandemonium, right? It inflates things, it makes them bigger than they are. And so then that's all the stuff in the world. Then you have to deal with what's going on in your own home, in your own community, neighborhood, right? In your immediate world. And I know if any of you are like me, and just from what I've heard, that you're experiencing chaos in your own world as well. And maybe that's just struggles with a relationship. Maybe that's parents that are fighting and on verge of divorce or in that process. Maybe that's conflict and disagreement with how things are being done. Maybe it's, something like an important date that's up in the air that you don't even know if you're going to get to experience, and that's causing you chaos and stress and anxiety. So, I think a lot of us, anxiety is one of those things I talk about a lot, and chaos is something that creates or adds to anxiety. So I think this is a really important topic to address and tackle. So chaos is not from God. Just first of all, number one, chaos is not from God. So we look at things and a lot of times it's easy to question and to say, how could God let this happen? Or, all of those things. But chaos, that's disorder, that's confusion, that's turmoil, that's not from God. We live in a broken world, and this broken world has consequences, and our free will, ends up in consequences. It's choices that we're making as humans, and it ripples outward, and that creates chaos. Also, chaos comes from the enemy oftentimes. So, he likes to leave us in confusion and overload us, because then we don't have any time to sit and listen and hear God when we're just overloaded with information and stuff going on, and we just have to handle what's in front of us right away. So I wanted to share a verse from scripture. It's from 1 Corinthians. He is not the God of disorder, but of peace. He is not the God of disorder, but of peace. So we have to ask ourselves those questions. When something's going on in our lives, we have to say, is this from God or is it not? Sometimes it's from God, sometimes it's from humans, sometimes it's from the enemy. And we have to be aware of those things, because we have to recognize it to be able to fight it. So the chaos that comes from the enemy, the father of all lies, right? How much easier it is to destroy our lives and our souls when there is so much noise and confusion. So here are a few things that Jesus said to us on during his time on earth in response to this, and it just comforts me so much hearing his words that he said when he was here. Both of these are from John. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have come to overcome the world. So he tells us right there, in this world you will have trouble. This world kind of sucks sometimes, right? In this world you will have trouble. But he says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So isn't that beautiful? Isn't that just amazing? So he came to overcome the world, right? He's overcome the world. We don't need to worry about it because God's got it all, right? He's already conquered death. He's already conquered sin. He came for us, and he wants us to have peace. He wants us to know that we're going to have struggle in this world, but that in God we have peace. And the other one I wanted to share with you from John 14. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. So right there again, he tells us, okay, I do not give you as the world gives you, right? So he's telling us the world's going to give us chaos and disorder, right? The opposite of, peace is, tension and chaos and the yuck, right? The opposite of harmony is disharmony. So he came to give us peace, and he left his peace with us. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Such beauty and comfort in these words that come straight from Jesus. So we can agree the world is in chaos right now, right? Okay, I think we're all on the same page. So we have to look at the chaos. We have to identify it, right? Denial does nothing for us. So how can we sort out the clutter? And I'll talk about clutter a lot in this piece. Clutter creates chaos. Chaos thrives in clutter. So we're going to talk about that a little bit throughout this. So it starts with us and it spreads outward. This peace, right? The opposite of chaos. So we'll look at two things. We'll look at how do we create harmony in the world, and then how do we create harmony within ourselves? Because those are two very important points, two things that we can have control over. So let's look at how do we foster peace in the world, right? Now that's a big question. That is a great, great big question. I'm going to give you one thing that's simple, but it's not easy. We lead with love. We lead with love. It sounds flowery and happy and easy. It's not. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It demands that we be the bigger person. And it is so much easier to be the smaller person. It's so much easier to just be petty and small, right? It's easier. It's easier to do that. It requires that we love our neighbor, especially the neighbors that are hard to love, or the people in our lives that are being hard to love. So this is a really big call and a really big challenge. But God gave us, the greatest commandment: love God. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like, if we can just get that right, all the other commandments take care of themselves. I believe we make God smile when we choose to love our neighbor. So let's look at a few practical things. So let's look at the big world, right? Riots. Are those actions led by love and justice? Are they honoring the issue and the dignity of all people? I look at the riots that have been happening. Some of the peaceful protests, yes, they are honoring the issue. They are standing up for justice. They are honoring the dignity of that person or that issue, as well as everybody else around them. But a lot of these riots where they're just burning down buildings, they're just acting out in anger and hate. They're motivated by revenge. They are not honoring the dignity of all people. They are not honoring the issue. So if we just looked at that, like the riots, okay? Are they being led with love? And if it's a no, then we have to examine if that's something that we want to be participating in or supporting, right? So just look at the worldly perspective, look at people's actions and motivations. Are they motivated by love? And if not, then that's something we should turn away from. Let's look at our own daily chaos, right? So a lot of people are angry right now, right? So what we can control is our reactions and our actions. Those should reflect our heart. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be emotional and sad. It's okay to mourn when something hurts you or when you lose something. But we have to look at our actions and our reactions going forward. So are those being led by love? So are we lashing out with hatred and anger? Are we seeking, indignation and retribution? Do we search for healthy resolve of conflict? Do we hear out the other person's perspective? Do we see Christ in that other person? I know it's hard right now. I know this is a hard time to get along with people, especially people that you're maybe around all the time. But we have to choose to lead with love, right? We have to look at how Christ loved us in spite of us being completely imperfect and messy and awful. He loves us, even in our worst moments. And so we have to choose to love others in those moments. We can look at people with compassion and mercy instead of guilting them and shaming them. We can look at them with love instead of anger, right? So that's an easy way we can help with the chaos in the world. It may not affect the entire global world, but it can impact the people directly around you. Now, people remember people that love them. They remember people that show acts of compassion and mercy, and that changes people's hearts, and that can change the world. So only worry about what you can control, right? Because on that big global scale, you can feel really small and insignificant, but you can make a difference in your own world, and never underestimate the ripple outward that can impact. So how do we seek to handle the chaos and anxiety in our own lives, right? And I'm sure that's where a lot of minds and hearts are right now. How do I navigate these waters? How do I get through this world right now? So first of all, take care of yourself. Give yourself permission to step back. Give yourself time to rest and to process. The best example of this is Jesus, right? So he only did public ministry for 3 years. Now, I want you guys to wrap your heads around this because that is less time than you spend in high school. He had 3 years of public ministry, and look at the incredible list of miracles he performed, people he saw, travel he did, crowds that came around him, people that hated him, people that he challenged that were very angry with him. Just look at all that he accomplished and all that he encountered in his 3 years. I guarantee you there was a little bit of chaos, somewhere in there. And there was definitely busyness. So like Jesus knew busyness. Yet if he needed to, he retreated. He retreated into the wilderness. He retreated into, a place of solitude to pray alone, to be with his Father. That is such a beautiful picture for us. And I love that that's documented in the scriptures. Like sometimes Jesus just needed to run away, and that's okay. So we can look to that, right? I bet if Jesus had a phone in those times when he retreated, he would have left it with the apostles. He would have been like, I'm not taking this thing with me. I am disconnecting. I am taking some time. So look to that example, right? We can't deny what's happening, right? We do have to acknowledge what's happening in the world, but especially in our own lives. We have to acknowledge what's going on. Allow yourself to feel emotions, process it, take it to God, talk it out with somebody that you know, love, and trust, right? Then, when you process your stuff, give yourself permission to step back. You have to acknowledge reality, but you don't always have to engage in it, right? You don't have to let it fill every space of your mind. You don't have to obsess over it. And I think we do that really bad. So one thing that I'll talk about in the future, I want to do a whole other talk on this, is it important, urgent, or necessary? And if it's not, then why are you worried about it? Why are you letting that occupy space in your mind? So set it aside. Find healthy coping mechanisms. We talk about this a lot. I think you need 5. And I think 3 of those need to be completely removed from any digital media. So, taking it old school, do a puzzle, find a game, like a physical game that you like, walk, exercise. I can give you great tips for how to work out at home and like use weights at home without actually spending any money. What else? Maybe it's just journaling. Maybe it's drawing, painting, reading, spending time in scripture. Maybe it's just laying down, taking a nap. That can be a very healthy thing to do. So think about that. Come up with 5 coping mechanisms. 3 of them should have nothing to do with the virtual world. Okay? The digital world deprives us of quiet. It is a time thief, and it adds to the clutter and chaos that is our world. So if you're seeking peace, you need to get serious about examining your relationship with digital media. What kinds of media are you consuming? How often? Is it really making you a better person? Is it adding to your peace, or is it adding to your chaos? And then again, focus on what you can control. Your reactions, your choices, the literal clutter. Ooh, that's a tough one. Literal clutter in your life, that will add to your chaos. So if your room, your office, your whatever is a mess, take some time, clean it, organize it, throw away what you don't need. You'll feel so much better, and you'll just simplify the world around you, right? So finally, the best way that we can seek that peace and harmony in our own lives and remove the chaos and the anxiety is to seek a relationship with the Lord. Truly, we are made for him. We are made for communion with him. And when we don't have that, harmony with him, when we're away from his presence, whether you know it or not, that is the hole in our hearts. That is that hole that only God can fill. So truly, allow space and time. God doesn't want us to live in disorder, in chaos. He wants us to live in his peace. We heard those words earlier. Read his word, quiet your mind. Run to him when you are burdened. Matthew 11:28-30 says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So comforting, so comforting. So, you probably have somebody in your life that like when they hug you, you just feel better for a second. And that's how we should be running to God. We should just be like, I just need you. I just need your presence. I always have this visual in my mind, like when I'm feeling awful and I just want to be comforted by his presence. I just imagine that, because we are his children, right? We are his children. I just imagine like curling up in his lap, like a baby, like whatever, I don't even care. But that image to me is so comforting. Because if you've ever seen like a mother and a sick child, and the sick child comes over and lays in her lap, and she just strokes their hair, and for just a minute it makes them feel better. Like that's the image I always carry with me when I run to the Lord. Have no anxiety at all, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. Then the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And that's Philippians 4:7. Again, in 1 Peter 5:7, we hear, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. So I hope this has helped. If you have questions, if you want clarification, if you want tips, I have been on both sides. I have been a beautiful, harmonious example of communion, and I have been a heap of chaotic mess. So I kind of know what it's like to work through that. So I'm happy to help offer any guidance or assistance. Thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of it. I love you. Have a beautiful day.